Hey guys, what's going on? This is going to be my War Within Season 2 Enhancement PvP guide for both Totemic and Stormbringer. If you haven't been to my channel before, I do a bit of PvP and I also do a lot of PvE. I've hit Gladiator and Shadowlands, and I usually get 2400 in Solo Shuffle each season as enhancement. So I'd say I'm about an average shaman for PvP. But anyways, let's get into this. I'm going to go over stats, what pieces of tier you want, some enchants, gems, and rotation and talents. And do this as quick as possible so that way we can get ourselves into the arenas and into it. So let's start with stats. So I like to do a nice even mix of haste and mastery, try to keep them somewhat even. Um, if you're going to be playing Stormbringer, I do know Stormbringer does prefer a bit more haste, and if you're playing Totemic, Totemic prefers a bit more mastery. So if you want to play Totemic, you're more than welcome to funnel everything into mastery. That allows you to hit really hard lava lashes, really hard LE blasts, and stuff like that. And for haste, it would increase the amount of lava lashes you get in your hot hands windows, which is pretty good because lava lash is going to be doing a significant amount of your damage. And as for Stormbringer, you can go into full mastery if you wish. It's just not as good because one, you're going to be aiming for those giant tempests with mastery build, but the big benefactor of Stormbringer is your Ascendance window, and you want to hit as many wind strikes as possible during that, so that's why it likes haste a lot more. But then, as per usual, versatility is third, and then crit is just useless. So yeah, my opinion, I always go with an even split. But again, you can go into whichever one you want and you'll do just fine. There isn't like a huge difference. So feel free to pick whatever stat you want. As for tier pieces, I went with helmet, shoulders, chest, and gloves. Reason why is because the pants have crit verse, which is just about useless. And then for our gem, so right now I am using the gem where it gives you the determined one, where it gives you basically extra damage after you get some form of CC effect on you. So if you're getting slowed and stuff, you're constantly stacking up, and it seems to be doing pretty well. The other one you can go with is the damage reduction one, where you just take less damage while you're in a stun, which is I don't have it. Yes, Enduring Bloodstone right there. So you take 5% reduced damage while affected by crowd control. So that's usually like stuns or any form of CC, not roots and stuff. So it's like hard CC, I believe. So if you want to, you can go with that if you find yourself falling over a lot. And then as for gems, I'd go with whatever stat you want to mass first, and then with versatility. Or if you're like me, I would just fill it up with either haste or mastery, depending on which one you need more. So if I had extra slots right now, I would probably fit them in with haste. Haste first, so that way I get a bit more. And then enchants on my rings, I did versatility. You could go with mastery or haste if you want to, if you find your versatility is a bit too high. But lately, I like to just go with a nice even split between them all. For weapons, I go with Authority of Radiant Power on both of them, but it is possible to do Depths or Stonebound, I believe, for the Mastery Pock. Depths is pretty good for single target damage. It actually does apply it quite a lot, so feel free to do that. But yeah, that's basically it for the gear, I think. So just to reiterate, Haste Mastery, grab whichever enduring or determined gem you want, and then fill in your sockets with whichever gem is more beneficial to you. If you want the even split, put in the lower stat that you have with versatility. And if you wanted haste versus weapons, you would have to buy them from the blood token vendor for PvP. Or world PvP, I guess. Alrighty, let's get into the town. So first we're going to start off with Totemic. Totemic, this is going to be your base build. You run elemental spirits. You probably don't know, you probably want to run regular feral spirits, but the reason why you don't is because regular feral spirits is actually nerfed. Instead of giving 15% physical damage, it only gives you 10% physical damage. Or not 10, sorry, 5%. So it's much worse than Elemental Spirits. On top of that, Elemental Spirits is going to give you a bit of elemental damage, making your Elemental Blast bigger and your Primordial Storm bigger as well. So those are the big reasons. So a lot of your damage is going to come from Lava Lash, Hailstorm combos, and then your big nuke is going to be Primordial Storm with Doom Winds up with a big Ellie Blast afterwards. So let's get into how we're going to do that. So we have one target here. We basically want to start with dropping our totem. This is going to be like basically perfect opener type of thing. So you're going to drop your totem, you're going to flame shock, you're going to feral spirits, you're going to primordial wave into a doom winds, into an ice strike to build up. You want 10, and then primordial storm with that massive hit, and then smash as many lava lashes as possible. I did forget my PvP talents, but we'll go over that in just a second. So that is the main way to work with this build. Also, make sure your imbuements are on, as I just failed to do that because I just swapped into this gear. So that's mainly how you're going to do it. And we'll go over it once again in just a minute once things come off cooldown. But for PvP talents, for Totemic specifically, I go with Shamanism, and then we take Totem of Wrath, and then Grounding Totem is swappable with Burrow or Static Field based on what you are fighting. If you are fighting like a double melee comp, for instance, DK Warrior or Hero Cleave or, Windwalker Warrior, I'd definitely go with Burrow. But if you're feeling a bit more risky and want to go for a bit heavier damage, you can go with Counter-Strike. It's easily killed, right? So you won't get a huge amount out of it if it's instantly killed. But that's basically it. Stormweaver is pretty good and does give you a bit of healing, but it's not worth taking over Burrow, in my opinion, against melees or Grounding Totem against casters. So just to quickly showcase the damage once again, Totemic, we drop our totem, we Flame Shock, we Feral Spirits, we Primordial Wave, we want to Ice Strike, Doom Winds, Primordial Storm, and then we Lava Lash as much as possible. As soon as we hit 10 stacks, we want to Elemental Blast and get some big damage. So that's the big thing, is you can just see the amount of damage you get for how little you do, and these burst combos come up whenever. So always try to combo Feral Spirits with your Primordial Wave if you can fit it in. It should come up just in time. And then the same goes for these two. Always combo these with Feral Spirits because it's just an extra boost of damage. It's very simple to follow that too. So it should come up fairly quick. But yeah, anyways, let's get on to Stormbringer, the easier build and the build I've had more success with, but Totemic seems to be the one that everybody is running and having success with as well, but this build is much easier to follow along. So for this one, we focus more on Storm Strike, taking Crash Lightning as well with Ascendance. You can take Root of Elements, but you're taking a risk at not getting a proc of Ascendance versus guaranteeing a proc, but you are a bit more unpredictable with this, meaning you could catch somebody off guard without like a defensive or something. So it is kind of useful to run it, but at the same time, there's no proc protection, so you might not even get a proc the entire arena, even if it's like 10 minutes long. But we take Voltic Blaze because we're spamming Lightning Bolt and Tempest and Chain Lightning all the time. This is proccing a significant amount. This just adds in a nice cleave, a little bit of Maelstrom generation from far away, and applying Flame Shock for a high amount of damage. And then we have Ice Strike and Hailstorm here, mainly because we want our slow. So Ice Strike is going to add a 60% slow, and then Hailstorm is just going to add a extra slow, but deal quite a bit of damage. These usually hit for about 1 million if you combo it with Ice Strike right after you get a Frost Switch proc. So it does hit pretty hard, and it is worth pressing. And it also might generate you a bit of Maelstrom if you're lucky. But onto the hero talent. So you can take Lightning Conduit if you want. It's a bit more of a random speed boost. I personally go with Electroshock just because after a Tempest, I want to make sure I catch up to the person. So this works out pretty well. Just gives you a big burst of movement after you Tempest. And then this one here is a choice for, it's a personal opinion. Some people go with Tempest or Storm Swell, sorry, for the bigger mastery buff. So this increases your big burst. Essentially, after you Tempest, you gain a big, heavy buff of mastery. But I like Supercharge because it allows you to cast more lightning bolts, and it basically gets you more Tempest faster. But at the same time, if you're getting kited into oblivion because you're slow and you're enhancement and you can't catch your target, which wouldn't be a surprise, this kind of gives you a bit of extra chance to get some Maelstrom from far away. So every time you lightning bolt, you have a chance to gain a few stacks back. And then Nature's Protection is usually a go-to for me, but Surging Currents does mix very well with our other talent, Stormweaver. It just allows you to give that big burst of healing surge. So it does come down to a personal opinion. So with Stormbringer, though, you can swap into Burrow and run double, or you can swap into Stormweaver, like I said, and then take Surging Currents and apply a big heal. Now, Surging Currents does work better with pet classes. So if you're fighting like a Warlock or a BM Hunter or an Unholy DK, Surging Currents does work very well because it'll give you stacks up to 100% if it hits multiple targets rather than just one singular target. So you get it much faster. But yeah, it's about the same. And then you can swap into Counter-Strike, Burrow, Stormweaver, or Static Field based on what you're fighting. I typically recommend Burrow though because it gives you a bit of movement speed. On top of that, it's an extra defensive that you need. So let's get into how you play it. This is so much easier than Totemic, so you'll probably be a bit shocked, but maybe not. But anyways, in your opener, you want to just open up with a Flame Shock. And again, this is going to be basically if you're perfect or like your perfect opener. So Flame Shock, Feral Spirits, Bloodlust, Doom Winds, Ascendance, and then you just spam Windstrike. Spam Windstrike as much as possible. And you want a Tempest tracker, so that way when you get Tempest, you can just pop Tempest with a big hit. You want to use it with 10 stacks because you get more value out of it. It gives you a much bigger hit because during Ascendant, you're only spending 5 Maelstrom per ability. So you can see here, now we're outside, so we just want to be doing roughly the same thing. You just want to Storm Strike as much as possible, get your generation going, and do some big damage. That's about it. It's much easier to follow this build than it is Totemic. And this build also, I find, gives better damage from afar. Like, I can just keep casting and not worry about it, and you have a chance to generate Maelstrom a whole lot more. But that's why I've had more success with this build. But on to the actual utility and totems of enhancement or shamans in general. So in a minute, I will go over a video, but to start off with, we have Tremor Totem. This gets you out of any fear, sleep, or charm. So if you're fighting a warlock, this is very useful, or priest, or anything like that. If you see fear going out, drop this and it'll break your teammate out. If your teammate is far away from you or they're on the other side of a pillar, it will actually work, but you have to be within 40 yards of them. If you're not, then drop it and move it with your Totemic projection. This button is like god tier for shamans. The other one is going to be Grounding Totem. This soaks up any ability within 3 seconds. Now, it can actually soak multiple abilities. It only goes away once it's been hit. And when I say it's been hit, it's either been attacked initially or the spell it grounded finally hits it. So once that spell hits it and kills it, it'll stop redirecting all the abilities. But let's say, for instance, a Warlock casts a Chaos Bolt and a Mage casts a Glacial Spike. It'll soak both of those at the exact same time. So just keep an eye on it, but people do tend to take it out really, really fast, but it is very useful. The other one is going to be Capacitor Totem. This one is our stun, so a good way to use it is to drop it in behind a wall and then move it onto your targets. Now, I run double cap totem. This allows it to respawn if it's been killed or after it uses. It basically just initiates another cap totem and allows it. Don't use this if you have like a rogue or something on your team because you want to let them do all the stunning. Healing stream totem, you want to keep down as much as possible. Just use it on cooldown if you can remember. It's a very good habit to get into because they did buff healing stream recently, and it's just passive healing that is useful. Other than that, keep your shields up, use your utility, make sure it's going, I like, hopefully it's going the best. As for defensives, you have Astral Shift, you have Stone Bulwark, and you have Burrow if you take it. Astral Shift should always be first. This allows you to stay aggressive if needed, and you don't have to basically back off too much. You get a big boost. You can take Astral Bulwark, but that increases the cooldown to 2 minutes, but gives you a bit more damage reduction. So if you're fighting like an extremely high burst, like Sub Rogue Unholy DK or something, some abomination like that with high burst, like maybe a Frost DK even, you could take this and it would work out better and it would line up. As for Stone Bulwark, you can drop this and it can actually be purged off. So keep an eye out for that. And it is a 3-minute cooldown. But if you keep it near you, it constantly keeps giving you a shield every 5 seconds. Other than that, Burrow just makes you immune and fast. So use that up if you ever need to. But yeah, it makes you immune, but not immune to dots. So you can die to dots. So make sure you're near your healer as fast as possible if you're really low. Now, on to the way to use your utility or your totems to catch your enemies. And we're going to do this with a 2v2 match. And a 2v2 match is actually a good place to practice your mobility skills and stuff like that. So that way you can get used to it all. Anyways, let's move on to that. Okay, so to kind of help me explain what I'm talking about when I say totem uses to help you catch your enemy and, you know, enhance your mobility in a sense. This arena is what I did in 2v2s on one of my streams. It basically, we're fighting a BM hunter, and I think everybody knows BM hunters are quite mobile and hard to catch. So at the start here, I saw him go stealth, so I kind of have a, somewhat of an idea of where he's going to be. So I go ahead and use Root Totem to grab him out of stealth. And now he's moving away from me. I'm slowed. So I go ahead and drop a Cap Totem to where I think he's going. So that way I can stun him and finish off catching up to him. So now he disengages, so I drop a Cage Totem to make sure he can't get too far away from me. Because when they disengage, they get a big burst of movement speed, and they cannot be slowed. So it's definitely helpful in that sense. So you start putting a lot of pressure, and he can't quite get away from me. Now I get concussed, so I go ahead and use Spirit Walk to remove it, so that way I can stick to him. All this time I'm trying to use Frost Shock as much as I can, try to keep it active. There I made a mistake of dropping a Earth Grab because he dropped his Tar Trap, so I used Earth Grab to try and keep him there with me, but he ends up disengaging right there. I should have waited a couple seconds to drop the Earth Grab to where he was disengaging too, so I could stop him and catch up and not have to burn 2 movements. So you can see I'm able to connect. He's walking through his Tar Trap, and he disengages out a little bit more. So I drop a Root Totem, and I'm able to get both him and the Priest. And then I drop a Cap Totem to make sure I get a double stun, because the Priest can't move because he's rooted. And then we're able to fully connect here, putting a lot of pressure on him. At the same time, you can also use your Root Totem to get pets off of you. So if you're fighting like a Demo Lock or a Unholy DK, you can use the Root Totem to your advantage by either dropping the Root Totem and walking through it so all the pets get rooted, or drop the Root Totem directly on the pets and then move it to your enemy. It's up to you on how you want to work with it, but the best time to do that is usually when like a Warlock pops Dreadstalkers or something like that, or summons his extra Felguard. But here, I saw the Hunter, he was moving pretty fast, so I dropped a Cage Totem to lock him down and keep him on top. And now here he kind of goes weird and stops trying to kite me, so I'm just able to fully connect on him and take him out of the equation. Very interesting, but that's one way you can use your totems. And apologies about the quality, but it is what it is from stream. So using those, and you can also use lasso as well. The problem with lasso is you can be interrupted, so if you get like stunned or something, it knocks them out of the stun as well, but it's still useful. And it is channeled so you can move and cast while using it. But yeah, so hopefully that helps explain a bit on how to use your totems so you can use them to grab pets, stop your enemy from getting away, and use your Cap Totem and move it with your Totemic projection as well to get the stun. I'm also running double Cap Totem, so it does help out with that effect. As you could see in one of the parts here, you'll see here where it goes off and then it comes back up. So that way, if it does get killed, you still do have a chance to get another stun. It's just you won't get that double stun. So right here, he'll disengage out and move towards his priest, and then I will drop a root totem, and here I will drop my cap totem on both of them. You can also drop it far away, and you'll see it get the stun, and then it'll appear again and stun again. That's one of the uses of double cap totem, is they have to kill both of them, or they get double stun no matter what. So yeah, but anyways, guys, that is it for my guides. I have had most success with Stormbringer, but I have seen majority of people have success with Totemic. So it ends up being what you prefer in the playstyle. And recently, Stormbringer has been seeing some buffs and still getting buffs to this day. So we'll see how the meta changes. But yeah, I wish you guys all the best of luck with your Enhancement Shaman PvPing, because it is an uphill battle, but I love this spec and I don't think I'm ever going to give up on it. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope this helps. Best of luck in your arenas, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Laters!